The following presentation is part of the Beyond the Blast Doors network. You're listening to Around the Galaxy.
This is Pete Fletzer. On this episode of Around the Galaxy, we're talking to Maria and Rayven of the Sistas With Sabers podcast. Join us as we talk about Star Wars in today's socio-political climate, the state of fandom for women and people of color, and what balance really means. So strap yourselves in, relax, and enjoy this journey around the galaxy.
D&D player, board game player.
We're having roast.
That's why we're here.
That's what's good.
I'm in New Orleans.
I'm a big fan of you guys. You guys started a podcast about 2.5 months ago called Sistas With Sabers. So why don't you introduce yourselves and tell me a little bit about the show for those that haven't gotten to it.
Okay. Hey, it's me, Maria. Sistas is kind of just it's a for us, by us podcast for Black women specifically. It doesn't mean that other people can't listen to the show, but it's just, I was a listener for a long time to a lot of different shows, and I didn't hear our voices specifically being represented in a way that was positive or even at all sometimes. Or if we came on a show, we were a guest or somebody's girlfriend, and I just thought, wouldn't it be nice, first of all, to find out if there are any other Black women, because I had never met any, never seen one. Mm-hmm. And I sent out a tweet, got a lot of responses. It went crazy. And we decided to start it. I said, wouldn't it be nice if this existed? And it didn't, so I decided to make it happen. So we got about 10 responses back, 10 women that first night, I think. It was amazing, and we've been doing it ever since. So it's not for money. There's no Patreon associated, nothing like that. The only thing that we ask is that weekly you check out one of the support assistants. So we do a bunch of links to Black-owned businesses, GoFundMes, Black projects that are happening in the world, or music or whatever, and we ask that you guys give that a listen or a like or a tweet, or donate when you can. So it's a really exciting time. We don't really cover news or any of those fancy topics like that. It's more about just our feelings and our experience with the fandom and what it means to us. So I think it's time to hear those voices on their own platform in a way that hasn't been done in the past.
Yeah, that's great. And Rayven, so you joined up at the start, and so maybe tell me a little bit, introduce yourself, and tell me a little bit about how you got into Star Wars. What was sort of your introduction to Star Wars?
Well, first of all, thanks for having us. I got involved right away. I saw Maria's now famous tweet, and I was really excited about the idea of something that was, inclusive to a particular group of people. And the fact that I was included in that was really, really wonderful, because as we've covered a little bit in our podcast, there's a little bit of separation even amongst us people of color. So it was nice to know that, for somebody like me who's biracial, that I was still going to be included in this. And that was something that was really, really positive to me and really important, because growing up as a child, a biracial child, and I'm 43 years old. So been, basically the 80s and, somewhat the 90s, just, knowing that I didn't belong anywhere. I'm in the gray area, and it's pointed out on a regular basis that you're in the gray area. And it's so wonderful to be able to connect with this part of who I am, and with other people who are first getting this opportunity to really connect that way. And for me, Star Wars started at a very young age. In fact, I can't honestly tell you when I saw it the first time, but it was a family thing for me. My parents are both, they're not as big of fans as I am, but it is not uncommon for me to randomly get a text message from my sister that'll just be a picture of my mother laying on the floor, in her 60s, laying on her living room floor looking at the TV, and she's watching Star Wars. And she's, my sister will just show up and find my mom watching Star Wars, and mostly it's for Darth Vader's leather pants, but I digress. It's definitely a family thing for me, and something my dad took me, to see Empire and Return of the Jedi. I don't remember Empire, but I do remember Return of the Jedi, actually going to see it. But I had seen the other two previous, so it was definitely a family thing. When it's on the holidays, we'd always watch it and that kind of thing. So
that's wild. So, Maria, how did you discover Star Wars? What was your entree to the saga?
I grew up and I was in the prequel generation, right? And I enjoyed that for what that was, and then it kind of just disappeared, and it didn't come back. I was told like that was it, that was the end. I didn't really fall in love with Star Wars until much later, so it happened in a really interesting time in my life. I was in a treatment center, and I saw Empire. It was one of the only movies there that was entertaining, for lack of a better word, we'll just say. And I thought, man, has anyone else seen this? This is so cool. Like, this green guy, he's really on to some cool shit, man. Like, we gotta figure this out. Like, and I remember just being blown away. Like, I had no concept that there were like original movies or whatever. Like, right. I missed out on the whole like 20-year drought or whatever, will Star Wars come back nonsense. Like, that was never even a thing for me. Like, I didn't get it. Yeah. So when the Clone Wars happened, I was on, a lunch table somewhere watching the TV, and this little robot guy told me that the Clone Wars were happening. And I'm like, that sounds like a Star War. Is that a Star War? And that's when it all kind of came together for me, and I fell in love with Ahsoka, and her journey has kind of mirrored my own in my personal life. So she's one of my favorite characters, and the Clone Wars really ignited the passion for Star Wars.
Yeah, I've said it a lot lately, I feel like, and I think it's because I've started to, with my own kids, and seeing how they've gotten into Star Wars, and hearing different people's stories. It's always amazing to me, because I always, of course, I look at it my perspective, right? I went to go see the films when I was 7 years old with my dad, and so I grew up with Star Wars, but these different doorways and these different ways, and I always find it really interesting that people can sort of fully ramp up and take on Star Wars regardless of where they come in, right? I mean, I'm finding a lot more and more sort of prequel folks as that was their entry point, and I can't imagine leading with that. And you led, it sounds like, Maria, with Clone Wars, and that's a really interesting way to enter this story. I mean, my son is actually a major Clone Wars fan. He's like Rex and Cody and Fives; those are his guys. Where for me it's Luke and Han and Chewie, and so it's a really interesting. It's a different way to come in. So.
It's one of the few franchises that has that generational entry point that you were talking about. I don't know of very many other franchises that have that generational entry point where you can drop into the story at different points in the story and different generations connect with it. I can't wait to see the Resistance generation kids, because that show isn't for me. Like, I understand that show is for my stepson. That's his generation, right? Because his father is an admiral in the army, right? So his father was the one boots on the ground fighting for rights, right? And his son has them and takes them for granted, right? Kaz, he's just casually not looking where he's going. He doesn't seem to know what's going on most of the time, and most of the time he just haphazardly wins the day by accident. So I'm excited to see what the Resistance generation, what their relationship with Star Wars will be.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting too, because I think a lot of it, what's interesting for me is to watch how, my daughter, she'll be 11 in a week or two, and she followed Rey. So her favorite trilogy is the sequels, which is really interesting to me. I think, much like the prequels, there's many people, and Rayven, you probably are in this in some way or another. If you started with the originals, the prequels hit you in a very different way than if that was what your entry point was. Rayven, how did you respond to the prequels when you first saw them, having sort of grown up with the originals as part of your childhood?
Well, I think to a certain degree, I might have been a little bit poisoned because walking into the prequels, I was a huge Liam Neeson fan, as well as a huge Ewan McGregor fan, as well as a huge Star Wars fan. So I was kind of it was their job to lose me, and they didn't. It's not that I don't see some of the complaints from the OT people like myself. And what they have as far as complaints with the trilogy. I think I've simply grown enough and gotten old enough to realize that, the sequel trilogy does look a little shinier and newer than the original trilogy, which seems kind of strange given the time difference. Right. But at the same time, I'm able to accept in my brain that, it was made 30 years later and it's going to look different. And George has so much more at his disposal now than he did before and that kind of thing. So I didn't have a lot of the negative reaction that a lot of other original trilogy types had to the prequels. Yeah. And honestly, I found that Ewan made a character that I certainly revered, but kind of in a distant way. Right. Someone I could really love. Yeah. Obi-Wan became someone I could really, really love and be interested in and be, what's he up to and, what's going on with him. Before he was just, the old, guy who knows what's going on and we go to him for help and, and I mean, we've seen that in 100,000 movies before and that doesn't, and I don't want to devalue, Alec Guinness and what he did because that's not what I mean, but knowing him as a younger man, as a more impulsive man, just getting the opportunity to hear more of him as opposed to spouting Jedi code, was really fantastic. And, as far as I'm concerned, Liam Neeson can do no wrong. So there you go.
Yeah, it's funny. Qui-Gon has really, to me, Qui-Gon is, I think that's our biggest loss in the prequels is I want more Qui-Gon. I want to know more about it. But
I was very disappointed at his death.
Yeah, I mean, very similar to Obi-Wan, because to your point, I haven't really thought of it that way, and this is why I love doing this show, is I get different perspectives on things, and I think about things differently, and that's exactly why Ewan's Obi-Wan works, is because he fills in that back story, which of course is what is supposed to happen, but he does it so effectively, and he committed to it, and he feels like there's that direct, and now I haven't talked about this in a while, but it's one of my favorite things. Now when you watch A New Hope, and when Alec Guinness says Obi-Wan, that's a name I've not heard. You can see it's the best unplanned acting ever. In that he now he knows the time is now. This is what he's been waiting for. This is what he's been prepping for. And oh no, here it comes, right? And the connection to Ewan's portrayal is so strong. It's so really well done. It's very well done.
And I think too, for me, that the part where that happened with A New Hope looking different after Ewan was, when he says, he was the best, starfighter and he was a good friend. Yeah. And when he said it in the movie originally, you thought, oh, a good friend, but now that statement, it doesn't mean something different, but it has so much more depth, because now you actually understand not only how real and true and deep that friendship was, but how tragic and horrifying the schism at the end. And so that those few words that he says with the gravity that only an actor like Alec Guinness can deliver them with has so much more meaning than it did, when you watched A New Hope the first time. You just were like, oh yeah, somebody he knew, obviously, somebody he got along with. Yep. But it becomes something completely different. Now it's the same as, if Luke said Han was a good friend, we know the backstory of that and what he means when he says good friend. It's not, dude I would invite to my bachelor party. It's, the dude I'd have take care of my kids if something happened to me, dude, and there's a very big difference between the two.
Yeah. Yep. And again, it's I think Ken Knapsack says reformed prequelist is the phrase he uses, and that's what I've become, because I love those movies. I liked them. I had a problem with them early. I'm the first to admit it. Although I never went on Twitter or social media and told somebody they were wrong for liking them. I won't.
Right.
Good on you.
You know your limit. Good job.
That's what you have to do. But it's interesting because those have grown, and when you both were saying, curious to see what this next generation, because there are people who have very strong feelings about the sequels. And what's my daughter going to say when episodes 10, 11, and 12, if they ever come out, or whatever the next generation of Star Wars is, how is she going to reflect on the sequels as her entree into this series? It's going to be very, very interesting. So cool. And so I have to ask, because you have the Tano shirt on, and I've listened to your show and I've seen your response, but how did you react to the end of Clone Wars, Maria? How did you tell me just sort of how did they deliver what you wanted, and how do you feel about her story moving forward, Ahsoka's story moving forward?
Well, that's such a big question, right? I love Ahsoka for so many reasons. She's just, I'm going to try not to get emotional. She's a wonderful character. As you can tell, like, for me, she's more than a character. She's alive.
Right.
Like,
right.
she's part of my life. I liked season 7. It was so great. Not only did we get to see her in her glory, at the height of her power, really just nailing it, but also we got that moment with the Martez sisters, which I really love those episodes. People say they're filler. What they mean to say is they're fuller. What they do for the character is they fill her. They complete her. She cannot move on to be that change agent in the rebellion, right? As Fulcrum, if she doesn't first understand that there's more to life than the Jedi, right? So she has to find a way to move beyond that. And the Martez sisters give us a wonderful look at what other Latino people look like that aren't Jennifer Lopez. So I really love that. It's not every day that you get to see that side of Latino people or Latinx people. And so that was awesome. I really loved her interaction with Rex, like that she was instrumental in his liberation, right? So in the same moment, Luke and Leia are being born, Anakin's doing whatever, getting metal body put on, Padme's dying, and a slave that was once a slave is now being freed by Ahsoka Tano, the person who is now the most liberated person in the galaxy.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It draws everything together for me. And it's really sad at the end. Like, the ending, it's heartbreaking, right? Like, everything that she's fought for has come down to this, and it's a total waste, right? She throws her lightsaber down like, never again.
Right.
It's not worth it. The cost is far too great. And she looks at Rex and, they've lost it all. Yeah. What do they do now? How do they move forward? It's going to be tough to see what happens next to her, because I feel like we're nearing the end. Because after what happens in Clone Wars is Rebels, right? We already know that story, right? Yep. So then there's another chunk of timeline between the movies, whatever's going on in the movies, where's she at during the original trilogy, and then after, she's going to presumably go find Ezra somewhere. And then what, right?
Yep.
There's not much left to do, right? She's already becoming what I consider greater than a Jedi, right? She's superseded the Jedi level because their way of thinking was myopic, right? So she's become greater than a Jedi, greater than she could have possibly even imagined in the Clone Wars movie. The height of her aspiration was a Jedi Knight, or soon will be, right? Mm-hmm. That was the quote. She's become way more than that. She's a conduit between the original, the prequel, and the sequel trilogy. Like she is the living embodiment of the light side of the Force through Morai. Like there's so much going on there. You're never going to convince me that there's anything better than Ahsoka Tano. You're just not going to do it. So it's sad to think about what's next for her because I feel like we're coming to the end. But I'm also excited to see her get her shining moment. So I hope that her end is going to be revealed. My dream is a film, of course.
Right.
But I think it'll probably be a Disney Plus series. And I'm hopeful that at the end, we'll see Anakin waiting for her on the other side.
That's great. And well, I mean, the timing of it, right? Because we'll see her in Mandalorian, hopefully. I never thought of that, but boy, that would be, imagine that moment where, much like when Luke saw Yoda and Ben and Anakin, depending on which version, and for her to see him at the end would be just, that would be, wow. I hadn't even thought of that. That's really amazing. And I like what you said about the Martez sisters and that those episodes as well, because it was the same sort of thing. You know, I had conversations on the streaming Star Wars show that we do with David, and we talked a little bit about, you know, David wasn't really comfortable with the Mandalorian having to learn, right, in those first couple episodes. Like we expected him to be stronger and ready to go. But I thought that was what was so important. And I love the Martez sisters episodes because it showed you who Ahsoka really is, right? Because she could have, at that moment, she could have gone any direction. She could have lost her heart. She could have lost any of those pieces, and they brought it to life in such a great story. And I think the stories themselves were really, really good. And to the other point that you make, which is 100% correct, is Ahsoka really is the only character that goes across every year of the series, even right down to the fact that her voice is heard at the end of Rise of Skywalker. So she's been there, and she's, you know, to me, I've said this a lot, and that is when I first saw the whole Snips and Sky Guy thing, I was like, no, we can't do this. And then now she's probably one of my favorite characters. She's just such an amazing piece of the story.
Yeah, it's called character development.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people need to slow down on the whole filler episode thing. We can't get to Ahsoka the Grey without the Martez sisters arc. It's so important, and not just for the sake of the character development, but also to put a voice to the voiceless. How many of us are living in 1313 here in our galaxy? The underprivileged, the underserved, those individuals who don't get all the breaks, you know. And I think Ahsoka's eyes were opened, and I think that other people can apply that story right now to what's going on right now in our universe. It's so timely and so relevant.
Well, and I think, and that's what's, you know, in a way, what's most heartbreaking, and again, a level that I hadn't thought of it before, but that's what's heartbreaking to me when I hear people say, I hated those characters, they were filler, why did it have to be women? You know, all these ugly comments that we hear. But to your point, they're missing the fact that that's reality, right? That's a representation of reality, which kind of leads me to, you know, the next section of things I wanted to talk to you guys about. Look, I'll be flat out. I'm a middle-aged white man, so I have a very different perspective on everything.
No,
I know it's hard to believe. Even with the shaved beard, I am middle-aged. I will admit that. But that being said, I would love to get your perspectives, and especially to people who listen to my show, your perspectives on, you know, what's the state of Star Wars fandom for women and for people of color, and how have you seen? And either one of you can jump in on this and go for it. But what's the state of fandom at this point, and is it getting better? And what have you seen changed over the last, let's say, since the Disney era? Because I think that's when we've really officially kind of started the engines up again.
I'm going to let Rayven go because I've talked a lot. Go, sis.
Whoop, whoop. Okay, well, I'm happy to join in on this a little bit. The state of the fandom, I guess it depends on the day that you look. But in any group of people, you're going to have a group of people that you'd rather were not in the group that's required for having more than one person involved. So, you have to kind of take some of that with a grain of salt. I think there's definitely some growing pains going on. I think some of the arguments against women or people of color or, those kind of arguments, I think a lot of them just come from simple ignorance and comfort level. That's a human behavior. You'll find that I'm the scientist among the crew. But it is a human behavior. We gravitate toward those who are most like us. It's normal. It's only the socialization that gets us past that point where we realize that, hey, you middle-aged white man, you and I have a lot in common. I tweeted today about living color, and you're like, great. I'm like, yeah, see, look how we have that connection outside of everything else. Yep. So I think there's a little bit of that realization going on. I think a little of it is starting to understand a little bit just that it is kind of comfort. I'm used to everybody looking this way or being this way. There is some ugly. There's just some plain ugly. But I think that Star Wars, while they may not have done it up to everyone's standards, I think they are trying. I think they could use a little bit more input from the people that they're trying to reach in the way that they, include these things. We've talked on our podcast quite frequently about, Jannah and how she could have been such a wonderful character for young girls of color who are the type that feel that real connection to someone that looks like them. It could have been an opportunity for them to really find a character to get behind, the way Maria is behind Ahsoka. But we didn't learn anything about her. And while I do realize that partially that's due to, well, we can move on with her later if we find that there's interest, but you have to give us enough to get interested in. You can't just say, here's the black girl, you should totally follow her. So I think that they're really trying, and they have the ability to try. And I think some things they've done beautifully. For instance, as I've talked about on our podcast, introducing Finn. No one ever brought up what color Finn was. Right. No one in the movie ever brought it up. No one ever made it like it was any big deal at all. It was no different than if he'd been a brunette instead of a blonde. No one cared. No one said anything. Same thing goes for Lando Calrissian. So they're doing it right in that sense, making it, this is what it is. We don't need to make something out of it. But at the same time, for some people, there needs to be more. There needs to be more character development of those characters that you want us to glom onto from that, that recognition perspective. So I think that the state of the fandom is overall, I have a lot of hope. I've had a lot of really good feedback from our podcast. I've felt welcomed by the majority of people I've dealt with, content creators like you and like, other people. So I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that what's going on in the real world will help make that better. But I think what we all need to do, and it's everybody, it's not any one particular group of people. We all need to stop labeling in the sense of we can't hang out with this person because they're not X, Y, and Z. Like, give everybody a shot, because I guarantee you in a room full of 100 people, you will have something in common with every single one of them. Try to find that before you find the thing that makes you guys go fisticuffs in the lobby. It's so much better to have that moment where we like the same movie, we like the same this, we like the same that. Right. And if you don't like something, totally fine. You don't need to eviscerate the people who do like it. Just, that simple.
Yeah, and I think it's I find, and maybe this is just my perspective, and correct me if I'm out of bounds a little bit or looking at it the wrong way, but I feel like the people who take issue with diversity in Star Wars, obviously, I think we're not going. I'm not saying anything groundbreaking by saying they probably also have trouble with diversity in real life, right? Yeah. But I feel like in the social media sphere where the ugliness is easier to engage in. I think they feel like it's a safe place to be ugly, right? And that's my perspective. Every time I see it, I'm like, you wouldn't say that if you were sitting in your office, right? Anything you wouldn't have that same perspective. And so I think that's why I think people who are aware of what's going on are that's why I'm more bothered by it, because I look at I use my daughter as an example a lot, because she's I'm so hopeful that she grows up in a world much like Ahsoka, Maria, who idealistically, and I know I'm being an idealist here, and it's not reality, that she's going to grow up in a world where everybody loves each other and doesn't notice color or race or choice or whatever. But when I look at her pop collection, right, I have hundreds of pops behind this curtain here, but her pop collection, it goes Rose Tico, Paige Tico, it's Jana, it's Ray, it's Finn, it's Poe, and she doesn't care. Like, she's never, like you said, like, she's never like, I like the African American guy. No, that's not it. She likes Finn. He's the guy. And I'm so hopeful that Star Wars, because it does reach the generation, and we think about what George says, it's a movie for 12-year-olds, right? It's a movie for kids. If they learn that, like I learned, Princess Leia she was a kick-ass woman. I didn't think about it, but I learned that, I've never had an issue. And so I'm hopeful that we can get to that point, and I just hope it's not us stupid adults that stop them from getting to that point.
Absolutely. And that's going to be the biggest thing. It's going to be us stupid adults not being gatekeepers to anything for any reason.
Right.
Don't tell your kids you can't like this, or you can't do that, or you can't be this, because that's not the Jedi way.
Right. Yeah, it was Joseph Scrimshaw, when he was on the show. He said the people who have a problem with Star Wars are really missing the point, right?
Exactly.
The main lessons there, right?
Yeah.
Maria, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, well, Rhole's in the chat. She doesn't have her video up, but hey, Rhole, we love you. Shout out to you. Love you, sis. And she's in love with Hux. Hux is the best. I agree. Love Hux. She agrees. Star Wars is for everyone. I'm hopeful that in the wake of things like the Black Lives Matter movement and Black is King and the success of Black Panther, that Disney will start taking diversity a little bit more seriously, instead of like we get one character here and one character there. Like, I want to see our planet. Where is it that we come from? Right. We've seen Coruscant, we've seen Naboo, we've seen Endor, we've seen Kashyyyk, we've seen these places. When is it our turn? So I'm really excited for that, and I think we've got a really nice musician and composer to do that in Ludwig Göransson. He did a fantastic job on Black Panther. I feel like all of the pieces are right in front of Lucasfilm, and they can't see it. They can't see what's right in front of them. And Lucasfilm has always been on the cutting edge of teaching through media, right? Whether it's Indiana Jones or whatever it is, like, they were always right on the cusp of that. And that's something that George took very seriously, and his art was saying something that was socially relevant at the time. You see that in the prequels, you see it in the original trilogy, it's in Clone Wars, for God's sake. And George always took a hard stance against bullies and against that kind of negativity. And I'd like to see Lucasfilm today grow a pair and pick a side, because I feel like they've been straddling the fence when it comes to LGBTQ matters and diversity as a whole. Like, they're willing to put their toe out, but they don't want to get involved. And the time is now to get involved. And because African American people are lacking in a culture of their own because it was robbed from us and forced out of us through slavery, through years of brainwashing, through Christianity, through demonizing of African culture and ways, and replacing that with coveting wealth and things that are unattainable and rap culture. We don't have a sense of language, communication, history, or lore. And so movies like Black Panther are essential because they give us a language that we don't have inherently on our own. Now, if you want to go research it and do the genealogy, God bless you, and you're welcome to do that. But in most households, it's not passed down anymore.
Right.
If you go to a Jewish household, most of them can tell you their family's history. A sense of culture and pride is there. And it's just not always present. Now, that's not to say that there aren't households out there that carry it, but I know for me, like, it wasn't taught. I know for most of the women I know, it wasn't taught. So that's why a Black planet and a Black system is so important, and especially Star Wars as a motivator of change. They have the resources to make it happen, and the pieces are right in front of them. So I hope that they grow a pair and decide to do something with it.
Yeah, I was going to ask you to react to a statement, but I think you already kind of did. But if you wouldn't mind continuing a little bit to talk about the phrase that I've seen a lot lately, is people saying that the Rise of Skywalker gave in to some of the fandom menace kind of thinking, that didn't want to see exposure to different points of view. Do you believe that that's what happened, or do you think it was just poor storytelling?
I think it's a mixture of both.
Yeah.
Right? Unfortunately, J.J. Abrams and Chris Terrio are white guys. So they can only see so far.
Right.
Unfortunately, they're not people of color. And with the exit of Curie Hart and other voices who are championing for diversity, like, you're left with something like this. I think they're, the golden phrase of Rise of Skywalker is missed opportunity. Like, there's no shortage of those. If you like Rise of Skywalker, God bless you. Great for you.
Yep.
That's wonderful. Rise of Skywalker is like a stir fry, right? I enjoy the parts that I enjoy, and I just pick out the baby corns and I set them to the side, and I go on about my life. I don't waste a lot of time on social media pissing and moaning about it, because I have the Clone Wars and I have a life. So it is what it is.
It's funny to hear you say that, because that's exactly the way I feel. I didn't hate it. It was a fun movie. It was a Star Wars movie. I got lightsabers. I got battles. I got cool stuff, but missed opportunities. There's Star Wars missed opportunities and there's social missed opportunities. So there was,
Absolutely.
It was, yeah. I'm still trying to figure out the right way to write that story that I want to say that I felt like we missed in episode 9 without whining about it. And I don't know if I can, right? I don't know if you can do it in a way. And I think that's part of the problem and part of the conversation, right? For me to be able to get out and say, I didn't like it because of this story connection, that story connection. And I think the story connections led to, I don't believe, and I hope I'm wrong, but I don't believe, I hope I'm right. I don't believe that they deliberately pushed Rose to the side. I just don't think they knew how to use her in the story because of I don't think JJ was like, I don't want that person in my story, but I just think he said, I don't know how to use her in my story, and instead he brought in the Hobbit, and that made no sense to me at all. So anyway, I think
instead he should have asked Ryan, there should have been more collaboration there, and I think that's a mix of like male arrogance, right, and I know what I'm doing, right. Disney called me back for a reason, and JJ has been really good with Star Wars about making what he believes Star Wars was in 77, instead of focusing on what Star Wars needs to be in 2020. Because Star Wars needs to say something again, like it did in 77, and in a powerful way. And we can't do that if we're looking back here. And I think that's the problem with JJ. He's a wonderful man. I think he means well or whatever, but he's filming back here instead of here.
Yep. Yeah. I the way I put it was I think JJ is a fan of Star Wars movies, and Ryan was a fan of Star Wars stories. And there's a very big difference there because The Force Awakens was phenomenal, right? It brought us right back to where we needed. That was the movie we needed in 2015. And and again, I take no issue. If you loved Rise of Skywalker, that is awesome. And what I find also very interesting too is that people like the three of us on this conversation who like are on Twitter all the time and we follow the stories, and you just listed off planets like they were streets in your neighborhood. We found the issues, the Star Wars story issues, whereas friends of mine walked out of it who they love the movies, they're Star Wars fans, but they're not Star Wars obsessives, and they walked out of Rise of Skywalker and were like, that was great, right? That I knew the bad guy. I saw some lightsabers, cool new ships, red stormtroopers. I'm cool, and that worked for them. And but that's drifting away from your point though about what Star Wars did in 1977 to just sort of throw some of the take a traditional story concept and twist it around a little bit because that's what we needed to hear at the time. I mean, even the Ewoks representing sort of guerrilla warfare and technology versus philosophy. Yep. That was a missed opportunity. And again, this is why I love doing the show, because I didn't think of it as they didn't deliver the story that we need today. And that's exactly, I think, the underlying issue I have with it without even thinking about it.
Yep. Absolutely.
So while we're on that track, what kind of, as we're dealing with, and this is the understatement of 2020, which is just been a bizarre year to begin with, but as we're dealing with, race issues both in the US and the world, are there lessons that we can take from Star Wars, whether it's the current time or the older, the full 43 years that it's been around? Are there lessons we can take and maybe apply and so help people to understand things differently? It's a strange question, I know, but
I'm sorry for laughing, but fuck yeah. So of course there are lessons, I mean, all over the place, whether you're talking about Jar Jar and finding value in his life, even when Obi-Wan says he's a useless creature, another useless life form, or the compassion that Padme shows, right? When she kneels in front of Boss Nass, right? That's a woman who's using her privilege, right, to respect another race, which should be happening right now. I know some folks right now that should be metaphorically on that knee, right? Showing respect and helping instead of just, whatever, or washing their, it's not my problem, somebody will fix it one day. Some other person will take care of this mess. I got shit to do, it's all of our problem, right? It's not just my problem. It's just not your problem. It's everybody's problem. So I think there are tons of lessons that you can get out of Star Wars. Fuck me. I could pick one out of a hat right now. You really want one? Like, okay, Mortis. Hello, dark side and the light side. It's happening. That battle is being fought right now in America. Okay, if you think that Dr. King restored balance to the Force, like you're totally wrong, dude. We are not in balance, and we need your help, right? Yeah. The Rebel Alliance message of the Rebel Alliance, right, is hope and standing up in the face of adversity. If you fancy yourself a rebel, now is the time, right, to put your money where your mouth is for everyone. Not just me, not just my little girl, but everyone.
Yeah. That's you quickly slid through a phrase that I think is really important, and that is bringing balance and understanding what balance really means, right? And I think to bring it purely to a pure Star Wars story perspective, I think people still are not sure if balance the Jedi winning. And eliminating the dark, no, that's not balance. That's and that's where we are now. Is it's not. Look, we're not saying. I don't think we're saying that one group is better than the other. We need to make sure that everybody is balanced and has an opportunity and has a voice and a say and that chance. And that's what the balance is. It's not it's not driving one side harder than the other. It's balancing it. And that's a really important phrase that I think people even forget about Star Wars. You know,
Absolutely.
you don't have
The
dark.
word equity comes to mind.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Rayven, we've kept you a little bit silent down there. You've just been nodding and listening. And do you have anything you want to add to this part of the conversation?
I concur on all counts. However, I would include also that the ancient Egyptians believed that balance existed to go out of balance. Achieving balance is not a one-time only deal. One must achieve balance and then continue to stay there. Getting there is one thing. Balancing is one thing. Staying on balance is completely a separate thing. And I think that that's something that we don't talk about enough in the realm of Star Wars and in the realm of life in general. But, you know, just bringing it down to Star Wars specifically, did Luke bring balance to the Force by what he did? Sure. Doesn't mean it can't go out of balance again. And that is part of what I think old schoolers and new schoolers, when it comes to Star Wars, need to take from it, and they need to apply also to their regular, ordinary life, is that everything is cyclical. Everything that you are seeing happen now happened before. It'll happen again. So long as there are more than two people on this planet, these things will continue to happen this way. And balance comes when we achieve it. And then we have to fight for it again later on because things get out of balance. Nothing ever stays 100% equal. Yeah. I mean, that's just not the way the world works. And when it comes to things like, you know, Rise of Skywalker, love it, hate it, you know, there's a million different places in between to be. But I agree with Maria. Take the, you know, the stir fry approach. Take the things that you love those, and live with the things that you don't like. Because remember, the movie isn't just for you. You didn't write the movie. You didn't make the movie. So your opinion in the end matters. You follow me?
Yep.
When you make your art, when you write your fanfic, when you create your beautiful, you know, artwork, you know, pencil drawing, all these crazy people that do these amazing drawings that I can't even make a stick figure. But anyways, I digress. That is your opportunity to tell the story the way you want to tell it. They didn't tap you this time. Get your hand in the air so that they will tap you next time, okay? Because we need these new voices, these different ideas. Yes, I think there were missed opportunities in The Rise of Skywalker. However, I saw a couple of moments that absolutely solidified my love in this thing, this world, this galaxy, this universe. There were things that were done, for me personally, so right that what was done wrong, I can pick those out and put those to the side of the plate. I can live with that.
Yeah, and it's funny because I think that's where, and this is, I guess, because social media is just a hellscape on the planet Earth. No, I know it's a crazy thought, but the point that you're making is really important because yes, I can rank the movies, and just because my number 11 is my number 11 doesn't mean I don't like it, and doesn't mean I can't find 800 things in that 2.5 hours that I thought were fantastic. But I think it's you know, it goes back to everything that we've been talking about, in that it's about being able to have a conversation about it if you disagree on something, and being able to have a civil conversation about it, and not, you know, I was talking to somebody just the other day about sort of grace under pressure and that ability to keep emotion out of now it's impossible to keep emotion out of things that affect you personally, but it's also very difficult to have a conversation with somebody when you're starting there. So it's important to let that influence your passion behind it, but kind of keep it out of the conversation, because it's not going to win. I don't know anybody who has ever been in an argument and saw the other person cry and they said, you know what, you're right. I was completely wrong. It doesn't happen that often. So I think it's a matter of strength coming and passion staying there, but remembering that other people's points of view, they're just as passionate about it, and you're not going to necessarily shift them 100% with that. And I'm not making a very clear point on it other than to say that it's how you discuss it, which will give you the opportunity to influence other people. And I think that's just as important as having the opinion to begin with, I think.
I think that's exactly what Maria got right about Sisters with Sabers. I remember the first night that we talked about a couple of different items about Star Wars just in general. You know, some of the things are about the rise of Skywalker, some of the things are about other things. But we talked about it, and someone else in the group, you know, literally said, I've never thought of it that way. Mm-hmm. Now, she didn't walk away going, you know what? What I heard was right. I was wrong. I have to throw away everything that I thought. Not at all. But she heard a different viewpoint, and she thought about it from a different point of view. And suddenly my statement of you know, that differed from hers originally made more sense to her, because she was able to make that, you know, that, oh, I see where you saw it that way. I don't agree, but I see where you saw it that way. And if we can do that, that's the biggest thing. You can dislike the movie all you want to, and I'm more than happy to talk to you. But by the way, I'm not the person who loved the movie. I'm just apparently the person who liked it the most. I gave it a D-, but apparently I was like the highest grade. But you know, to me, I'm more than happy to disagree with your Star Wars opinion without being a jerk about it. We don't have to agree, because my favorite character is Luke Skywalker. If that's not your favorite character, doesn't mean we can't be friends.
Right.
It just means that I connected with Luke Skywalker in a way that you didn't, or vice versa. And I think that if there's any problem in the fandom, it's that. It's if you are not exactly like me, you cannot, you know, we cannot be friends. Well, isn't that the problem we're having everywhere right now?
100%. 100%. Yep. Totally agree with that. That's great.
The more you know.
That's right. Yeah, we need like the.
I was waiting for the butterfly to come in.
I'm just hoping the cat's not going to jump on my head because he's considering it.
I'll edit that in later.
Thanks. Oh, don't worry, he'll do it eventually.
That's great.
There you go. There you go. To Rhole's point, the struggle is not over. And to Raven's point, like, balance has to be achieved over several generations. And I think we see that in the Clone Wars, in the Mortis arc. Like, it doesn't mean that the light side wins. The daughter actually dies. Like, the father, the son, and the daughter all die on that planet, representing that balance is when everyone is neutral, right? That's really what balance means. It means there's equality. So I'm excited for the future of Star Wars, and I think Rayven made some great points, and I love her. And when she brings up like sisters moments, I get emotional, because I have really fallen in love with these women. I know this is not anything that you wanted to talk about, and this isn't in the lesson plan at all. I'm going to take a hard left right now.
Hey, I just hit the record button. You guys do the show. This is great.
I just want to say I love all of the sisters. You know who you are. I love you so much. Olivia, Rayven, Rhole, Rihanna. Oh my God, so many of them. Portia, my God, I'm an idiot because I can't remember everyone's name. Who else? Who else is in there? Tell me someone so I don't look like a moron.
Say
everybody. Okay, I'll just say all of you. I love all of you. I'm building these really special relationships with people I've never met in real life that I love so fucking much. And we all share this bond, and we get to talk about what's going on in our day. We chat in the Discord almost every day. I make it a point in the morning to tell everyone I love them and they're special, because it's a really tough time in the world right now, and shit is real for people. And you know, this is the third, today I had like the third suicide attempt since COVID at work that I had to like talk someone off the ledge. It's a really tough time. And, you know, my job is pretty stressful, and the people that work there, God bless them, they're doing the Lord's work, you know, because they get screamed at all day. and it's a really stressful time, but connecting with you guys is so special for me. I've never met another Black woman that loved Star Wars as much as I did, or that was as cool as me. And I'm just so glad that I was able to meet these women. And I can't wait to meet all of you. I'm going to meet up with Olivia for my birthday, so I'm excited.
That's
and I was hoping to see Rayven, but it's not in the cards next time. But
we'll make it happen. It's a little further away.
Is so special. Like it's more than just a podcast.
Yeah.
And and the point of it is more than just a podcast too. It's about including people, bringing people in. And
I want to come visit you, Rhole. I love you. I don't know when I'll get out there.
Yeah, everybody
going to have Japanese women poke at our butts together.
But it's funny because it's ironic that emotion poured from you after I just stated that Twitter is a hellscape on earth. But I have to agree, I have made connections with people that I never would have met who you connect on whatever it is. I mean, and connecting with you guys through social media has been just, I learn from you. I get great perspectives from you. I'm a big fan of your show. In fact, just today I tweeted out that people have to be listening to your show. It's one of the but it's because it's different, right? It's not like every other, let's face it, there's like about 700 million too many podcasts out there. And so
it's true. It's so true.
But to your point earlier, Maria, it's like how do you find your voice? And what makes your show so unique is that you found it and you're going with it. And I have to say, again, middle-aged white guy, it's accessible to even me, right? I love listening to those perspectives and learning from you guys what you're seeing in this series. And it reminds me, and again, it's important as a father that I make sure that my kids are living in that sort of perfect world that I'd love to see. That if I'm a realist, I know it's going to be tough for them to get there. And to Raven's point, balance. Look, if we're being honest, we thought we were growing as a society, and we've slid back so far, at the risk of my show getting the most political it's ever been, but we've slid back so far. It's scary. And that's one thing I think you can take from Rise of Skywalker, if we actually bring this back to Star Wars for a second. You know what? He came back, right? You thought you got rid of the most evil person in the galaxy, but he came back. You got lazy, you got complacent, you got comfortable, and it came back. So
their followers are still out there.
Yes.
Yep.
They're still out there, and they're still loyal. After all,
and there are still people willing to be led. There are still people willing to be misled.
Yep.
In order to feel like they belong to a group. And that has been, again, that's a societal situation when you're dealing with mammals, particularly the two-legged type. We like to get tribal about anything. You see that guy over there with the same t-shirt from the same band that you like. Well, you guys are family and you don't agree on anything else.
Right.
But you have that that thing that's built into you to be tribal. And it's absolutely true. And that's why Star Wars is so important. Because when I was a kid, it's what taught me how the world is supposed to be. And that people who blindly follow the leader without questioning are stormtroopers. And those are the bad guys. Our guys over here, every single one of them looks different. Ain't nobody got an actual uniform on. We can't even keep all the guys in the orange jumpsuits wearing the same color damn helmet because they don't. Because here we are a ragamuffin group of the what we could get, and we made it work. That's how wars are won. That's how the right wins. That's how the light side wins. It's not by uniformly following the leader. It's by hook or by crook, and by following whoever is getting ahead today. As long as they're getting ahead in the right way. So I think it is important. And Twitter does bring you some really, you guys, yeah, and all of the people I follow on Twitter, every single one of you brings me joy on some level every day. Because if you don't, rest assured, I unfollow like a mad woman. Like, I will get you out of there if you're bugging me. but I find, that it's the gif, it's the comment on the something, it's the this or that or the other thing that doesn't mean anything that can change your day. I too have a very stressful job. I work in environmental health and safety, and as you can imagine, at this time of the world, things are a little different. I have 340 locations all over the globe. So, things are tough. We had a fatality just a week ago.
Wow.
And I need the uplifting point of these jokes and these, these things and these Raylo moments, and these cute little pictures of, all these different ships that they're not even my ships, but it's like, I don't even care because the joy that everyone else is getting.
Right. It's bringing somebody joy. That's right.
Yeah. Oh, look, there's that character. And I'm like, I have no idea who that character is. Yes, you,
Yes.
but it's like, it brings you that joy. And so, Twitter, definitely a cesspool. I mean, seriously, wash your hands when you leave, don't touch anything too much. But having said that, there is joy to find. So just, keep that in mind when you're scrolling through Twitter and you see stuff that bugs the crap out of you. Like, just scroll to the next thing, because I guarantee you there's a puppy or a kitty or a stormtrooper doing some sort of dance that you didn't think stormtroopers would do. You will find it, and your joy will be there again, and you will be like Luke celebrating, shooting down the TIE fighter in the Millennium Falcon.
That's awesome. That's great. Cool. Well, all right,
Thank
guys.
you so much for your support. It really means a lot.
No,
Absolutely.
I think we need. We definitely. You got to make sure people find this stuff, because the only reason I love doing the show, because I get to talk. I would say 80% of the shows I'm meeting people for the first time on the show. I'll have tweeted with them perhaps or spoken to them over some email, but to get to know people is what's so cool about it. And I also want to make sure people get to know the people that I've gotten to know. And so there's like I said, there's a lot of samesies out there, and we need to make sure that the unique voices are heard. So cool. Well, so I'm going to move us to the 10 question point. Otherwise, I'll keep you guys on until like 3 a.m. We'll just keep talking about this. And clearly you have stressful jobs and you need sleep. So let's make sure you get that. So, maybe sleep is overrated, right? So, all right. So I'm going to hit the 10 questions, and we'll do Maria. You can go first on this question. It's, what is your favorite Star Wars movie, TV show, or book?
I have to say Clone Wars.
Yeah.
Clone Wars is where it's at for me. It was my entry point in, and it means so much. There's Mother Talzin on my arm right there.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's for
I was trying to figure out what it was before, but
for your viewing pleasure. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've got a whole. There's Sabine right there.
Wow.
There's
All
Ahsoka somewhere. Anyway,
You got
Clone Wars. Clone Wars, man. That's how I fell in love, and that's where I met Ahsoka. So it'll always be Clone Wars.
Awesome. Rayven, what's yours?
Well, that's tough. It's tough. It's a toss-up between a book that I'm apparently not supposed to read and a movie that everyone could care less about. But in the end, I have to go with where my heart is, and my heart is in those black leather boots, Mark Hamill. My favorite movie is Return of the Jedi. To see my guy put aside a little of the whining and yet still retain that pure, wholesome goodness that is him, even if he stepped over the line for a second there. Yeah. What makes him what he is the fact that he stepped back. Something that most of us, having crossed that line, are not capable of doing. So something to look up to. So yeah, definitely for me, Return of the Jedi. Honorable mention though, Shadows of the Empire, Zero Forever.
Oh man, I was going to ask you what it was, but Shadows of the Empire is making a comeback. I'm telling you, I'm hearing more about it. I'm seeing stuff. Let's bring it back, and it's not that hard. That would be great. All right. In fact, so really silly little side story. When I was, I had one of the very first Star Wars websites back in the mid 90s. It was called Echo Base, and it was like on GeoCities or something like that.
Oh my god!
Yeah. Oh, it was old. Yeah. I had all the rotating GIFs that were, logos and stuff. But I actually did an interview with Steve Perry, who wrote Shadows of the Empire.
Nice.
And it was an email interview, but because that's what you did back then, there was none of this technology.
No.
But I was a huge fan, and I love the soundtrack for Shadows of the Empire. And all right, well, cool. And who says you're not supposed to love that? Come on, that's fine.
It's not canon.
All right, well, we'll start with you on this one, Rayven. What is your least favorite Star Wars movie, TV show, or book? And when I hit episode 100, I'm changing these questions, and this one's coming out. So just so you know, this is this is a tough one. So based on pure physics, what falls to the bottom?
I don't even know.
Right.
Probably Attack of the Clones.
Mm-hmm.
Simply because I'm not giving up Liam Neeson. And I'm not giving up the be all end all. So, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know that I have one that I would literally put in my least favorite, because I'm kind of like, well, they all there's like 3 at the top and then everything kind of into the group at the end.
Yeah. It's like Jason Fry said. He said, it's my 11th favorite film. So you're fine with
Precisely.
that.
Precisely.
Maria, where do you come down on this horrible question?
Well,
James would never ask a question like this.
Rhole's in the chat, and she really liked The Force Awakens and Rogue One. So those are her likes.
Oh, great.
She's one of the other sisters, and she couldn't do the video thing. My least favorite is the Ahsoka book by E.K. Johnston, and it's not that I hate it or whatever. It was pretty descriptive in the wrong way. Spent a lot of time describing the crops that Ahsoka was tending to, and it's just like, good Lord, woman, I really don't want to spend 2 hours learning about Ahsoka picking beans. Like, for God's sake, she's on this this planet, and it's like a commune or whatever. She's working for this family. It's like, come on, let's get to the action. What is her plan? What's happening next? And at this point, it was the end of the Clone Wars, and this book was the only thing I had left of Ahsoka.
Right.
It was the only new Ahsoka piece of
Terrible
story, and you left me with 2 hours of beans. Ashley Eckstein is narrating cropping. Like, what is happening here? And I'm just sitting there like, are you serious? I think Dave Filoni has pranked me. Like, he's just gonna come out of my closet with a camera, like, I gotcha, bitch.
Yeah,
you bought the book.
Maybe he was really busy and couldn't proof it, and he was just like, "Yeah, that sounds fine. EK is gonna do a fine job. Yeah, it'll do."
I can totally see him punking you. Seriously, Dave Filoni has got that twinkle in his eye. You just know,
oh man, my goal is to get him to sign my arm and maybe my baby, or at least meet my baby one day. There's my daughter.
I love that your child is named Ahsoka. I think that's fantastic.
She's something, man. She's got the fire part.
I have a Wookiee. I just keep bringing this up because I need some sort of street cred. I do have a Wookiee. I mean, a real, live, walking, talking Wookiee. I have one.
You do? Okay. Where do you?
I have a giant Alaskan Malamute, so I have a Wookiee.
Oh,
so,
there you go.
And she talks and she says, "Woo woo." Great.
That's awesome. All right, I know the answer to this one, but it's on the list, so I got to ask it. Did you consider yourself rebels or Imperials?
Rebel.
Yeah. Okay.
Well,
Yeah, we'll just skip over that one. That's like
Yeah. Well, I know, to be fair, Rhole considers herself more of an Empire lady.
Mm-hmm.
She's always kind of on the dark side of things.
that has to do with Hux and uniforms and
And the ladies of Resistance. She loves the characters from Resistance. God help me with the names. Tyrion and...
I would join the First Order in a heartbeat.
What's the other girl's name? Tam. There it is. Tam.
Oh, Tam. Yep.
Tyrion and Tam. There it is. I pulled them out of my ass roll. I'm trying, honey.
You do have to admit they do definitely have much better uniforms. So, So yeah. All right. So let's go to the next question and move along. So Maria, what is your favorite Star Wars sound effect?
I think I have to agree with Corey. The lightsaber sound
Yep.
is just amazing. It's a really beautiful sound, and for me, just that sound is hope. Right? There's hope in that moment, and there's also this feeling of never say die.
Right.
When you hear that sound, and that's why it's in the opening of our show. Right after you hear the theme music, you hear and it ignites, and it's a 1 in a million sound. It's so unique to Star Wars, and it means that somebody somewhere is going to be protected because of this sound. This is the sound of justice. This is the sound of freedom. This is the sound of positivity and hope.
I like that. I've never thought of it that way, but that's great. Rayven, top that.
This one's easy for me. anything that Chewie says. Again, simply because I have one, and I know what those noises sound like when they talk to you. When you're angry at somebody, and you're on the phone, and you're yelling, and you're screaming, and you're just angry, and you hang up the phone, and you're like, ugh. And you just look over, and there's these big brown eyes and this giant head that just kind of looks up at you and goes, "Woo." You're just like, you know what? Right. It's fine. Everything's fine. All of the things I thought were wrong, not wrong anymore. Come here and give me a big fuzzy hug, and the world's a happy place. So yeah, for me, honestly, it's definitely any sound that Chewie makes, even though I know that the sound effect itself is a number of different noises.
Right. But that combination
of noises itself is modeled after a dog like mine.
That's great. Cool. All right, we'll stick with you, Rayven, and start with who's your favorite droid, R2, 3PO, or BB-8?
You know, I've been on the R2 train for many, 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 many moons. but BB-8 may have just snuck in under the wire there, because BB-8 is freaking adorable. This little food. Just cute. But I've been an R2 girl for all of my life, and he's certainly the basis of most of the yelling, screaming Star Wars fights I've gotten into has been R2-D2. So I'm going to stick with R2-D2, even though BB-8's kind of, you know.
That's fair. Maria, where do you come down?
Well, Rhole, to answer the last question, Rhole in the chat, she loves Darth Vader's breathing. It's the prelude to ass kicking.
This is true.
So she loves that.
She's 100% right.
And this question is interesting to me because I wanted to say C-3PO after Rise of Skywalker. When that trailer came out, that first trailer, and he was willing to sacrifice himself, like for me, I was hoping that we would get C-3PO from Phantom Menace. Like he would reboot and he would ask, where's Anakin? Where's Padme? And that would have toppled C-3PO to my favorite, because not only did he finally learn the lesson after, 2 trilogies, of how important self-sacrifice is and the greater good and all of that, but I think it would have been nice for the galaxy to be saved by a toaster made by an 8-year-old boy to help his mommy around the house. You know? I think there's something so pure and innocent and childlike in that. So I think C-3PO had a great potential there to really be that person for me. Unfortunately, they went a different way. So this is a very long answer to say that R2 is the MVP of all droids. I just chalked that up to missed opportunity, and I am going to have to do a show sometime about Rise of Skywalker, because I want to love it.
You just got to let it settle for a little longer.
That's right.
Year.
It's going to be 4 hours long. Good luck to you.
And people are still a little bit testy about it, right? So, all right. So, question 6, Maria, I'll start with you. Which spaceship or vehicle from Star Wars would you most like to own?
I would say Ray's speeder.
Mm.
It really speaks to me in a way of some underprivileged person making something out of nothing.
Yeah.
And that to me is so, it's priceless, right? When you make something, no one else in the world can make it like you can, right? So I think Ray's speeder embodies um, the underprivileged of today, like making something out of nothing. So I would say Ray's speeder.
That's a good one. Great. Rayven,
I'm
what
going
do
to
you
go
say?
with a super superficial answer and sound like a 4-year-old kid when I say I want one of them speeders from Return of the Jedi so I can whip around the sequoias and just, But
Nothing
that's
wrong with
because
that.
I literally have a bumper sticker on my car that says my other car is a TIE fighter. So
That's awesome. Cool. What did Rhole say, by the way? Did she say anything? Did she add one?
Rhole,
no,
do
she's
you,
still on
All
the
right.
do you have a vehicle? She said, oh.
See, all of a sudden we're paying attention.
Nope, she wants the final answer.
Finalizer. Yeah.
All right.
I'm trying to keep you included.
You're doing a better job than me. I'm a bad person.
I just realized that I saw her over there on the side. All right, so question 7. We'll start with Rayven, I guess. Porg, Ewok, or Jar Jar Binks? Who's your favorite?
Jar Jar.
of the three? Jar Jar.
Jar Jar. Yep. No question. No question. I enjoy a little humor to my day,
Yeah.
and small things make me nervous.
I don't know what that means, but we'll let that one roll.
There you go.
Maria, who are you going to put on,
That's a good
on
idea.
that list?
It's a tie for me between the Porgs and Jar Jar. Like the Porgs are so cute. They're so cute. And even in the Forces of Destiny cartoons,
Yeah.
they are just so freaking adorable. I watch those all the time with Ahsoka. So
Yeah.
I think Porgs are good. But I love Jar Jar too, and I love Ahmed. He's done so much for everybody.
Yeah.
And he's taken it like a champ, even when they tried to rob him of his credits. And he's so classy about it too. I would be a total bitch about it. Like I'm just gonna be real. Like he's been so nice about it, and he's taken it all in stride, and he rarely like is a dick about it. And I know I would totally be a jerk about it. Rhole says Porgs because they look tasty and least annoying.
Yeah. Well, there you go. They're
I
definitely.
would end up eating them. See, that's why I didn't pick porks.
Man,
I have to share my Ahmed Best story with you guys because
Okay.
I had this opportunity when I was writing for Star Wars Galaxy. I had the opportunity to go to the New York premiere of Phantom Menace, and Rayven. I walked right next to Liam Neeson, and the man is a giant. He's huge, and I also learned that Glenn Close is tiny, very small woman who was also there. But anyway, I remember Ahmed Best specifically on the red carpet because he was so excited, and nobody knew who he was, and nobody cared to talk to him because they didn't know who this guy was. I mean, I had done my research, so I knew he was in Stomp, and I knew a little bit about him, but there were reporters would like stop him and ask him, "Who's your favorite character?" And he was like, "Oh, I love that Jar Jar guy. I thought he was pretty cool." And the reason that stuck with me was because of all the flack he took for years and years to come, because I saw him at the premiere and the most excited he could ever be. Right? Imagine if one of us was in Star Wars, right? Just I don't know where we got this role that happened to also be a pretty big role, and just the excitement you would have, and watching people just beat him down was so, because I saw him that day. Every time I saw people do that, it was heartbreaking, and it's so great to see him rebound 20 years later, and to be doing the Jedi Trials show with the kids is so cool, and he's just like you said, he could have, I think all of us, if we're being real, would have been a lot less human than he's been about this. So, but he was great. All right, so I'll move on to the next question, and I guess we'll start with you, Maria. If you could be any character in Star Wars, I think we've gone through this, but if you could be any character in Star Wars, who would it be and why? I think we've even gotten the and why from you
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, I think we've answered it.
Yeah.
On the risk of sounding repetitive,
Yeah.
I also I'm very Leia-y at work. Like
Okay.
I have about 20 people that are my direct reports that are relying on me, right? So I've got fighters out there in the field, and it's my job to make sure that they make it through their day and they make it home safe, right? So at the risk of, doing the Ahsoka thing again for the millionth time, I also have to do that in my job and be diplomatic and make those calls out there that keep everyone safe and make sure that Poe's not flying too crazy and he doesn't leave everyone behind, right? Because I have a Poe at work. And I have to say, damn it, like, the goal is not to outfly everyone else. The goal is to keep the group together.
Yeah.
Because we are a group. It's not just you out there.
That's great. Cool. Rayven, I know you're a Luke fan, but would you be him? And if so, why?
No. I couldn't match that level of optimism and sweetness and naivete if my life depended on it. I certainly couldn't spend that much time with the light side of the Force if my life depended on it. I am a gray Jedi from, well, let's face it, genetics. Being black and white is something I've been doing my whole life. I'm good at it. But I think any character I could be that I feel like I would identify with the most, quite honestly, I would probably be Captain Phasma.
You were the first person in 77 episodes to say Captain Phasma. That's pretty cool.
I have a really, really, really large picture of myself in my mind. I consider myself to be far larger, stronger, and more boss ass than I will ever be in real life. And so, she actually fits right into the lexicon of characters I would most want to be, because I would most want to be, Xena Warrior Princess and Wonder Woman. And thank you, Alexa. And, I'm a fighter. I'm a born and raised fighter, however much I might not look it. And you definitely, if you were going to have me for real, you're definitely getting heavy dose of the dark side.
And she's got the cool silver armor. So,
well, there is a reason I do this. These are literally my Wonder Woman gauntlets. I wear silver on both sides for that reason.
That's awesome. Very cool.
I've done that my entire life.
It's very cool.
It's my armor. I literally call it my armor.
Cool. And it's a good look. So, favorite trilogy: originals, prequels, or sequels? We'll start with you, Ray.
OT. Jedi till I die, like my father before me.
Nice, Maria.
I guess prequels.
Yeah.
I guess that's where the Clone Wars falls. It's such a weird question. But yeah, I enjoyed the sequel trilogy. It was fun. It didn't speak to me though. There were moments, especially Force Awakens with Rey. Oh my god.
Yeah. Where
I saw myself a lot. But I can't shake Ahsoka and Padme. Oh my god, the dresses, the balls on that woman. I move for a vote of no confidence. Come on.
Yeah.
Give me a fucking break. Just kill me right now. Like Padme is Portman is the shit.
Yeah.
There's no other way to say it.
I have to sneak this in here just because we're talking about it. I have to, because it's
Portman?
just a rule. No, I picked the original trilogy, but I love the sequel trilogy, and I just want to say why really quickly. I love the sequel trilogy because the reason I love Shadows of the Empire is because you get to be inside Darth Vader's head. You get to hear him thinking. And remember, when Shadows of the Empire came out, like I read it then, so there was no story of Darth Vader before yet. We didn't know anything about him beyond the 4 flippin' words he said through the entirety of the OT. So the reason Shadows of the Empire was so important to me was getting inside his head, realizing he was healing himself when he's sitting in that huge chamber. and that he could, without his mask, breathe if he could just hold on to the, and all of that was so moving and amazing to me. And I want to say that the sequel trilogy will never get enough credit for making their bad guy just as scary and 100,000 times more knowable. Kylo Ren, Ben Solo, is so much more knowable than Darth Vader, and it is what makes him equally as terrifying.
Yeah.
Because you understand the depths of what drives him in a way that you didn't understand about Anakin back when the original trilogy was all you had.
Right.
You know, and when you got the prequel trilogy, you understood what he went through. But knowing it ahead is a little different. And I think that the sequel trilogy really hit the ball out of the park with Kylo Ren.
Very cool. Yeah, see, now we've answered 2 people, all 3 trilogies, and there you go. Very diplomatic.
There you go.
Well done. So
that's how we do things.
Before we move on,
yeah,
Rhole is in the chat, and she wants to let everyone know that she would be Tam from Star Wars Resistance, which is one of her favorites. And she says it's because no one takes her seriously until she's run off with the evil space junta. So there you go. That's Rhole's wonderful sense of humor that I love so much. And we do take you seriously.
Great.
We do take you seriously, Rhole.
Mm-hmm.
So the 10th and final question.
Okay, let's do it.
Maria, we'll start with you. What is your favorite Star Wars quote?
Ooh-wee. How much time you got?
Oh, come on. This is easy.
I mean, there's a ton of them. The quote that comes to mind is when Ahsoka is teaching on Mandalore, right, about government and the Jedi's role in government and the citizens' role in government, and it's become kind of it's made a resurgence recently. People are jumping on the bandwagon of that quote. Let me go grab it for you. I probably need to tattoo it on my arm.
You do. I'm officially ruling right now. You need to tattoo it on your arm.
I might as well. I got everything else on me. I might as well do it.
You got room left. You got room.
Yeah, I go back next month for Zam Wessel.
Ooh.
For episode 2. That's the woman I chose.
Get it, girl.
So she'll go right on top of Sabe. Right.
Wow. So are you picking a woman character from every film or every?
Yes, sir.
Oh wow! Awesome.
Yes, sir. So by the time it's done, I want to put Carrie on top.
Yeah.
Yep.
Of course, because Carrie is
because you Carrie.
Well, Leia's the blueprint for everything. You know, without Leia, we don't get Ahsoka, right?
Yep.
She is the template that every female character has been patterned after since.
Yep.
Okay, so here's the quote in the interest of time. It's every citizen's duty to challenge their leaders, to keep them honest, and hold them accountable if they're not.
That's
10 years ago.
true.
In a kid's show.
Right. Remember, Star Wars is for 12-year-olds, right? Yeah, that's fantastic. That's
no,
good.
it's just supposed to be for 12 years old when you start. After that, it doesn't matter.
Well, and that's the amazing thing about. That's what's great about Clone Wars too. Is not only did they use all 7 seasons to build characters better than has been done in maybe any series, never mind Star Wars, but just really great. But the series grew up with the people who watched it. Like it got to be some pretty serious stuff. I mean, it always it was rooted in that because it was rooted in the prequels, but it definitely went on from there. So Rayven, what is your favorite Star Wars quote?
Your focus determines your reality.
Excellent.
Because I have found it to be true. When you're at peace with yourself, you are at peace. And when you're upset with yourself, you're upset. And I find that if I focus on the things that bring me peace, I find myself at peace. And sometimes those things are Liam Neeson, but that's a whole other issue.
I
I'm not going to comment.
But that is legitimately my favorite comic
show.
You're letting me go with it. You're just letting me go with it.
I'm letting you go, baby.
I'm old. I can do whatever the hell I want. Thank you.
Right. That's the way it works.
Well,
That's right.
I have to thank you ladies for spending an hour and a half just talking Star Wars and just talking about such a great wide variety of topics and bringing your show to mind, because again, as I said before, your show is on my must listen list, and having this conversation and opening some eyes and ears hopefully, and this was so much fun. Tell the people where they can find you online.
Okay. I'm at Blurred Girl Jedi, my personal Twitter. The pod is at Sabers With. You can send us an email for whatever reason at sistaswithsabers@gmail.com. We're on Instagram. It's at Sabers With, I believe, there as well. I'm not completely certain. Liv does that because she knows more about it. But
We have somebody who does that.
Just search for Sistas With Sabers. You'll find us. And if you have questions, hit us on Twitter. What else? We're on every podcatcher that you could possibly know about. We're on Anchor. I think you guys are on Anchor, right?
Yep, we're on Anchor. Yep.
Yeah, man.
Making it easy, right? So, well, great. Well, thank you so much. I hope to have you guys on again. I feel like now that Rhole watched this whole thing, I feel like I need to have her on her own at some point. And,
absolutely.
Get her perspective and keep doing what you guys are doing. And thank you so much for spending some time. And I look forward to having you on again sometime.
Thanks for having us.
You can follow Rayven at Jennabella J.
Don't follow me. I'm boring.
Follow her.
No, I gotta find out what you're listening to every couple of days. You post that.
That's a good point.
Something good. So good stuff.
I'll take it.
All right, guys. Thank you so much.
For over 40 years, Star Wars has been a part of our culture, a part of our lives, and a part of who we are. Now there's one place with something for every type of Star Wars fan: the Beyond the Blast Doors Network. From the latest in Star Wars news,
a great day, an exciting day here on the YouTube channel,
to collectibles.
Oh, I'm jealous.
Yeah, what do you
beautiful.
How much you want for it?
Interviews with creators.
If you want your book to feel necessary, it has to deliver some insight or some piece of information that you didn't get anywhere else.
Famous fans.
Yeah, and it's like all the there's a yeah. That's great.
Fan documentaries.
This moment, like the Force awakened in Rey, but it also awakened something in me.
And great conversation with casual and hardcore fans alike.
I've seen a lot of things end up on the cutting room floor that I'm like, oh.
The Beyond the Blast Doors Network was made for you. New content nearly every day of the week on video and podcast. There's something for every fan. Visit BeyondTheBlastDoors.com and on YouTube search Beyond the Blast Doors.